Ever wish you had someone to talk to anytime, anywhere, no matter what you're going through? Meet PsychPal, your 24/7 AI companion designed to help you process your thoughts, calm your mind, and keep you moving forward. Chat anytime during a panic attack, on a restless night, or just when you need to vent. Prefer talking instead of typing? Try voice journaling. PsychPal listens, transcribes, and truly understands. You can even upload screenshots of tough conversations and it'll help you unpack how they made you feel. PsychPal keeps life organized too. It can add appointments to your calendar, track your mood, and even summarize your sessions for your therapist so you'll never lose progress. Plus, built in crisis resources are always just one click away. It's a privacy first, constantly evolving, made to complement your professional care, not replace it. Ready to try it out? Head over to the link in this episode and use my code Pete at checkout to get 20% off your first month subscription to PsychPal. PsychPal, because your mind deserves a companion too. There we go. I think that's the one I like. We got it. We got it. Boom. Ever wish you had someone to talk to anytime, anywhere, no matter what you're going through? Meet PsychPal, your 24/7 AI companion designed to help you process your thoughts, calm your mind, and keep you moving forward. Chat anytime during a panic attack, on a restless night, or just when you need to vent. Prefer talking instead of typing? Try voice journaling. PsychPal listens, transcribes, and truly understands. You can even upload screenshots of tough conversations and it'll help you unpack how they made you feel. PsychPal keeps life organized too. It can add appointments to your calendar, track your mood, and even summarize your sessions for your therapist so you'll never lose progress. Plus, built in crisis resources are always just one click away. It's a privacy first, constantly evolving, made to complement your professional care, not replace it. Ready to try it out? Head over to the link in this episode and use my code Pete at checkout to get 20% off your first month subscription to PsychPal. PsychPal, because your mind deserves a companion too. There we go. I think that's the one I like. We got it. We got it. Boom.
What do I do when life's so meaningless? What do I do when I just ain't feeling this? Anyone feeling this? Anyone feeling this? What do I do when life's so meaningless? What do I do when I just ain't feeling this? Anyone feeling this? Anyone feeling this? Meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Desires not to exist. What do I do when life's so meaningless? What do I do when I just ain't feeling this? Anyone feeling this? Anyone feeling this? What do I do when life's so meaningless? What do I do when I just ain't feeling this? Anyone feeling this? Anyone feeling this? Meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Desires not to exist.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Pete vs. Society. Before we get started today, guys, I want to give a shout out to my partners over at PsychPal, guys. There'll be a link in the description of this episode, as always. 7-day free trial. Use my code Pete at checkout to get 20% off. Guys, with that being said, let me introduce my guest today. I am greatly honored to have this person today. You've seen her on HBO, ESPN, Dr. Phil, E! Entertainment. The one, the only, Kimberley Lou is here with me today. Kimberly, it is a great honor to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I was just telling you before, I love your website. I love your mission, and I needed to be a part of this.
Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Absolutely.
For everybody that doesn't know who you are, why don't you give them a little rundown, a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, what do you want to know? I'm founder of Guiding Hands Healthcare. It's a mental health facility. We're in about 150 centers. I have about a team of 80 people that work for me. As of now, that was just 7 years ago when we started it in my little living room. And then all of a sudden, now it's just grown and we're creating like institutes and education and all the different things. And I've written 8 books, 4 are published. The one that I'm the most proud of is called Becoming Who You're Meant to Be. And it's fantastic. You can get it on my website, kimberleylou.com, or you can go to guidinghandshealthcare.com. And I mean, what all do you want to know? Because
I mean,
I'm ready
what
to
got
talk
you?
about some anxiety, but how to get out of it too. Mhm.
What got you started though? Is that something's always been a passion? Is psychology always been a big thing for you? I always like to ask people that question because it's interesting to hear how people start.
Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna get a little probably. I'm gonna give you TMI. Is that with too much information?
You're good. Go right ahead. This is a
So
place to do it.
I don't know many people who have had the level of trauma I've had and lived to tell about it. That's being said, I feel like life happens for you, not to you, right? And my dad had got me hooked on drugs when I was 12, and then I ended up in a home for kids at 15. And it's really interesting because I was supposed to be in that home for about 6 months, but I was so mentally gone that they kept me for over a year and a half. And then, it's interesting too because graduating from there, um, couldn't figure out how to pay my bills, all the different things. They gave me a tree trunk to live in, which was really interesting. I don't know many 16-year-olds that would live in a tree trunk. And I would ride my bicycle 11 miles one way to high school, which is kind of
Jeez.
interesting because my daughter, I can't even get her out of bed to drive her to school, let alone let alone what 16-year-old drives themselves one way 11 miles
Yeah.
in Cathedral
True.
City, right? Desert Hot Springs to Cathedral City. Um, there was no snow involved. You know how, like, people say, "I walked 5 miles in the snow barefoot," but
That was my dad. It's like, yeah, I used to work 5 miles down the road, and there's something like that. You also grew up in Canada. I'm sure the
yeah.
sun was taller than you, pretty much.
But, you know, I remember getting my first job in a treatment center when I was 16 years old, and I worked 2 full-time jobs, and I went to high school full-time, and eventually I was able to get out of that tree and find a car, buy a car. My first car was a 1982 Toyota Tercel. It was a stick shift.
Yep. Yeah, mine was an '85 Honda CRX stick shift as
Nice.
well. I could drive that thing blind. It was so I loved it though. It's my little I even spray painted mine because
Yeah.
I'm a big Chicago White Sox fan. So
Okay. I saw that.
Frank Thomas is one of my favorite players of all time. So I spray painted my car black with the silver 35 on the side of it. Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
I love it. I mean, I'll never forget that car. It was the best thing for me, 16 years old. It didn't have any air conditioning, and I lived in Desert Hot Springs, so we all know how hot it can get out
Yeah.
there. And, I just loved that car more than anything, more than life itself. I was just so proud of myself at 16 that I was gonna be able to do that. But I remember driving my friend to, she was like, "Kim, can you take me to high school? I wanna register." And I was like, "Okay." So I went there and the principal was like, "Are you gonna sign up too?" And I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm just gonna, do my little thing." And he goes, "You need to sign up. Just try it for a month. Just try high school for a month." And I was like, "Okay," but I ended up graduating and she ended up dropping out, which is kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
What
definitely.
was
Yeah, I hated school though.
I
I
hated
did. It's
school
more
too.
because I struggled because I had learning disabilities, so it was hard for me.
Me too.
It was just I hated it. I got through it though, and then after that point, I was just like, ugh, I didn't want to do any more school after that. So I just kind of floated around and did jobs. But yeah, when I got my first car too, I was so excited. It was a little two seater, and I was like, heck, I thought I had the cast pajamas, man. I was like, all right, let's go. I can get around now and things like that too. But I went through a lot of cars as a kid, man. Like there was always something wrong. I had some friend do something stupid. Like one time he drove it in one of the second gears or something down the highway, and he tore one of the belts or something. I was like, yeah, this is not a good route for me. No, mm-mm.
I love it. So Andy, I love that we're talking about cars too, but it's very interesting. So I stayed sober for about 12 years,
Hmm.
but I didn't address my mental health, so I went back out and got loaded.
Yeah, but
And
a
I
lot of
had
times those two don't play in hand, though. Think about it. A lot of times people medicate to deal with their mental health. This is usually the reason why a lot of people get addicted to things.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, that's me. I had complex PTSD plus a few other things going on, and I never knew. I never addressed my trauma. I only addressed, like, okay, I'm going to stay sober. And I went to meetings and I kind of did the things, but I didn't really get down to the nitty gritty of why I was drinking and using. And because of that, I went back out and I lost everything. I lost, at the time I was married, big, beautiful house at the beach. I lost my career. I lost everything in a matter of a couple of years. And I started living under a bridge, pregnant with my daughter. She was 15 years, she's 15 now, but that was like 15 years ago. It's crazy. But I remember being, under a bridge and then my dad died. So I was able to get a Hyundai Santa Fe car. I lost
Hmm.
everything. I literally lost everything. That's where my drugs and alcohol take me. And so, I was able to get a little bit of time under my belt. I was able to get a car, Hyundai Santa Fe, another
Hmm.
stick shift. I love
Yep.
that car too. And I was living in it for a little while, but I remember being on the side of the road just screaming at God because I was like, "How am I gonna take care of this baby? I can't even take care of myself. What the hell am I gonna do?" You know? And I remember looking up, and in a car in front of me, it said in a license plate, "Right." And I was like, "Right? What?" 8 books later, tons of curriculum later, all the different things. But it's so interesting too. If you would have said to me 15 years ago, Kim, you're going to own two very, very successful companies, multi-million dollar companies. You're going to have the life of your dreams. You're going to have a PhD almost there, a couple months away. You're going to be married. You're going to have all of these things. People are going to be working with you and you're going to help people with their mental health. I'd be like, nope, 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 no, no, somebody like me can't do that. 6th grade education, because I know I graduated from a continuation school, even though I had a high school education. I had dyslexia
Yeah.
and a little bit of ADHD on top of that. So with that, it's like, how could somebody like me live the life that I'm living now? There's just no way. And then and even on top of that, it's like, no, thank you for all that responsibility. There's no way I
Right.
want all that responsibility that comes along with it. But
Yeah.
But if you would have told me 15 years ago, I'd be like, there's no way. But for some reason, I just kept moving forward. And it's really interesting looking back. And I always feel like, I don't know, I believe in some kind of higher power. I'm not going to name it. I'm just going to say universal intelligence. Whatever you want to believe is great. But I remember hearing in a voice in my head say, if you just make one small change a day, 5 minutes, one medium sized change a week, 20 minutes, one big change a month, an hour, what's your life going to look like in a year from now with close to 400 changes? So I remember, after a year of being sober again, and then this time around, I have about 13 and a half years sober. And there's not been one day where I haven't addressed my mental health or my addiction in one way or another, but 5 minutes a day. And then one change a day, one small change a week, one big change a month. You look back 15 years and you're like, holy shit, how did I
Right.
get here? And you think about it too, like when you're first starting out, a lot of times your container is very kind of small, but eventually it just starts to get bigger. So as you start to let go of the things that held you back, the stories that we're telling ourselves, or the maladaptive coping skills and all the different beliefs and all of that, as you start to move through that, you start to have the capacity to be able to handle other things. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, my perfect sense. Yeah, because I did the same thing this past year. I let go a lot of things. Like I always blame my mom because she abandoned me when I was 10. She literally took me to my dad's doorstep and dropped me off. I always use that as a crutch, but now it's like I just let it go. It was like, and it was the hardest thing to do though, because like when you're trying to do it, it's like this endless wall that just kept popping up. Like
Yeah.
for whatever reason, I just couldn't get over the hump. Like we stopped talking for like 13 years for a little bit because I was so mad when my daughter was born. She started like yelling at me, even though I was doing everything right. I'm like, I'm still there. I'm still active in the child's life. I'm still being, doing what I have to do. And then you're over here screaming at me, like, yeah, okay, I'm 19 having a kid, but at least I'm being a responsible adult
Right.
and staying and trying to be a part of the child's life and do everything I can for him. But you're screaming at me. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the way my mom has always handled things. So, and, but like I went through a divorce recently, she still won't sign the papers, but that's a whole nother story to talk about. But,
I can relate.
there was a lot of interesting conversations to have with her though, because I told her that I thought about killing myself, and she told me, "Make you need the 13th reason why." I was like, "Okay, cool." So then means that I have no reason for you to be around anymore. When I shed her and everything else just started changing. Like I had no relationship with my daughters like till about now, and they could see the changes. Like I recently went to go visit my oldest. She actually graduated high school, and one of them told me, she's like, "You don't seem like the same person you were before." I'm like, "I haven't. I've been doing a lot of work on myself, doing a lot of meditation and things like that. I talk to my inner self a lot of times too, because that was the hardest part, was that forgiveness thing. But at the same time, if that sequence of events never happened, I would never be doing this show now, because I always want people to feel open and safe in this space. Like this is what I open the studio up for, people to come in here and tell me. So I get some wild stories in here. Like there's some stories that get pretty intense in this room that we talk about, but I don't judge anybody, because I'm like, that's the whole reason I did this thing, was because I want this conversation to be real, because too many people share things on the internet, And we all know how that goes. You get all these people start saying a bunch of things and the negative things that come up. And it's like, we don't need to be negative. Especially every time I see somebody talking about, oh, I'm celebrating X amount of days. It doesn't matter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're one day to 6 hours sober, I'm celebrating it like you just won the big game. Because like, these guys get enough scrutiny for going through these things and the way they get looked at. And it's just sickening because it's like, it costs nothing to be kind to people, like why can't we just be nice to people?
I agree, absolutely. And the thing is oftentimes I always tell people if it's hysterical, it's historical, meaning if I'm having a big emotion or if I'm having a big reaction to someone, by the way, this is Lover Girl and she loves to be on camera, just so you know. She's gonna be all over this show. Um, but I always say if it's hysterical, it's historical, meaning that if you're having a big reaction, it usually has nothing to do with me. So, but that's also, if I'm pointing at somebody, how many fingers are pointing back at me? Well, if
Exactly.
I'm having a hard time with somebody, it's usually something about me that I don't like within myself, and I get a lot of pushback from that. "Well, I'm not this person or I'm not that." I get that, and if there wasn't something inside of you that was triggered, it's kinda like this wound. If, this cigar burn, right? If you put salt in it, what would
Hmm.
happen?
You react.
Right? But it would be fine, right? Because why do you think if I put salt in this wound right here, it would be okay?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I don't think it'd be okay. That hurt.
Well, do you think if I put salt on my arm right now
No, it'll be fine though because it's healed.
because it's healed? That's right. So I think sometimes when we're not healed from the inside, then we project onto others that healing, but we also project onto others too what we want to be or what we are, the good parts of ourselves. Sometimes we don't even know how to own the good parts of ourselves. But again, if my wound is healed, then it doesn't matter if I can talk about it, but it doesn't hurt anymore, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and plus your story matters to people too. People hearing that they can relate to someone that's as successful as you are, and they hear this story, they're like, "Oh, well, Kimberly's been through this. Well, I've been through it too." I think that's the great part is when I get people like yourself that come on and share these stories. It helps people connect even more to you because then it's like, hey, listen, I Kimberly Lou went through it. Well, I did too. You know what I mean? And like helps people connect to you because they feel like they get to hear the real stories and things like that. And that's why the format of the show has always been so casual like that.
I
It's
love
just
that.
because I like just having conversations with people because I go listen to a lot of people's old interviews and listen. I'm like, dude, I can't do this to them. Like that was the one thing I set out to do is be different than everybody else, and everybody that gets in the podcasting space, I tell them they're all like, oh, there's all these flooded shows. I'm like, yeah, but your own voice and your way you do things is different than everybody else. Like you can copycat some of the things people do, but it's your voice they're listening to. They're not listening to this other person, and things like that. I think a lot of people get that muddled a lot of times too.
You know what? It's really interesting. I remember I read the book Think and Grow Rich, and then I read a couple of other ones too because I was like, how do people make money? Because I'm so broke all the time. I don't know how to do it. And I remember, hold on, my hair is doing something funny here. I got to fix that. Anyway, so I remember I used to go to all these seminars, but I was really good working a camera. So I would find the person who needed volunteers or whatever. And I would say, "Hey, I can shoot, I can film camera, I can do all kinds of things." And so I would work for free and then get up close and personal with the masters of the seminars, right? The main speakers. And I started just to learn and I started to go every seminar I possibly could and just be of service wherever I could and just gain the information. And what I started realizing is nobody's different. Everybody has I don't wanna say that everybody has the same, but the thing is like, you could have all the resources in the world and still not succeed because you're not applying yourself, and w I think when you're given the gift of desperation, like myself or like you, right, where we're given the gift of desperation, it's like it allows you to roll up your sleeves and do the work because it's the pain of not moving forward outgrows or outweighs the pain of just staying stuck, if that makes any sense,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know? So it's important, it's important. But I don't know, I think in life, you also need people there. But the thing is, sometimes in the beginning, when you're starting to, I wanna say outgrow certain people, what happens is as you start to shift and change, people kinda leave. So there's
Hmm.
a place in time where it gets really lonely. and you're kind of by yourself, and it doesn't feel like anything's helping you or anyone's helping you, if that makes any sense. So as you start to move forward, you're going to experience shifts and change. And as you rise up, a lot of people will fall away, but the people who are meant to be there will rise up with you.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I'm big into energy and that
Mhm.
whole space, so, like, I look at it like, they don't like your energy, so you expel the people, you attract the people you want. Same principle of what you were saying basically, though, but yeah, yeah, this has been a solo project for a while, and everybody's like, "Oh, you should hire somebody to come," but I don't want to, that's the thing, I enjoy doing this. This doesn't feel like work to me, like, I shown people what I do. The first season of this show, I did 100 episodes, and people were like, "Oh, geez, how many you got this week, Pete?" And I'm like, every day I was recording different episodes, and some of them were live. In fact, in the original set when we did it originally, and then I went to close personal conversations because a lot of them got really intense for people to handle. Like I had some people that were really great, other people, but that's why I went to doing like pre-recording. So like I pre-record the show. And things like that ahead of time, so I have time to do other things. So I do this show, and I do another show called Voice of the Voiceless, which is like, where the story matters for a lot of people. So I have a co-host with that one, and things like that too. But this has always been a solo project, and I've had tons of people come and say, "Oh, can I come guest host with you?" Maybe, and I never get back to them ever. It's just like I don't have the heart to tell them no. I'm like, sorry, this is a solo
Yeah.
project.
I
I've
think
been working this since day one on my own.
there's been so many times in certain businesses where I've tried to have business partners, and it seems like there's now it's a little different. But in the beginning, everything would work when I was doing it solo. But when I started gaining partners, that's when my businesses would fail.
Hmm.
Because there's sometimes people aren't willing to do the work. And it
Exactly.
doesn't mean that there's anything wrong, or maybe you have a different opinion, doesn't maybe they are doing the work, but maybe you have different paths, but I think that the universe kinda shows you, like, quit trying to, you know, you're meant to do this on your own. And the thing is too, though, you'll get to a certain point to where then you can't do it on your own anymore.
Yeah.
Meaning you'll start to get so big that you're gonna need a team of people to help you, and I think that was the most challenging thing about being a CEO and a founder is, you know, passing your vision down to other people and allowing them to hold your baby and to take care of your baby while you go off and do other things, because the thing is like, if you're not growing, you're dying in my experience. So you could have the greatest thing since sliced bread, but if you're not going with the times, if you're not recalibrating and re-looking and kind of like Blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of went out. And Blockbuster was like the sliced bread, right?
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden now they're not there anymore because they weren't changing with the times. There comes a point in time where you can't do it all, but you can hire someone to who has your vision, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So I have a
Yeah.
whole team, at Guiding Hands. I have over 80 people working with me, and my core team, is so interesting. When I first started, I hired everyone from Starbucks. Because Starbucks, their workers work hard, man.
Hmm.
And I hired my executive director. I hired her as my nanny at the time, actually. And, and and she now runs my entire company.
Yeah,
She
I'll
allows
I'll
me to
get
go
to
out.
that point where I'll have to start bringing some other people in, but it's like I just like I push against it because I don't people don't want to put the same amount of time in as I do. And when people see the back scene of what I'm doing here and how much work I'm spending and things I'm doing and posting all these things, I have different tools that assist me to do all that kind of stuff. And I usually go live. I'm live on TikTok sometimes with people, so I show them the back scene of what it's like, what I'm working on, and I show people like, "Hey, these are some things I'm doing," and and they're like, "Wow, I don't know how you do it."
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know human design, but I'm a man generator, which explains why I do 20 different projects. So I'm constantly doing something. So I record this show, I record the other show. I do every Wednesday, I get together with a friend of mine. He has Uncle Jimmy has a podcast. So we go live and we just talk about mental health things like that too, and stuff like that. I go on other shows. I'm always constantly moving. I just finished another national media panel I did again with somebody where I was on the panel for the third time, which that was a great honor to be a part of that as well. Again, meet more people for the show and things like that. And it's always funny because people are always asking me how to get in the show, and it's just like we were talking about. It's like just ask me. Like if you fit, you fit. If you don't, you don't. Like just like everybody's always telling me, well, Pete, you better give me a time, okay? And those people don't get times, okay? So anytime you tell me, hey, give me a time, you're gonna be waiting a long time because I don't give you the time. There's a calendar for a reason I got in place. Let me tell you, when I discovered that, that was the greatest thing ever. Because I was
right?
trying to schedule everything on my own. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna have a panic attack during the first few months doing this
Have
thing.
a literal team of people just to manage the schedule because we're in 150 centers, right? With 80 different people with different curriculums and one-on-ones and groups and all the different things that come along with all of the things, right? And
Right,
so heaven forbid a tire blows out or, somebody gets sick and they call out 10 minutes before and, you're running across. So you need a team of people eventually. But that said, it doesn't mean that you can't add that personal touch.
right, yeah.
Mhm.
So, Kimberly, I did want to ask you something though. I
Mm.
know you said you have a daughter. Is the only child you have? Is
Mm.
she your only child?
Yeah, God gives you only what you can handle.
So my question to you is mental health a big conversation you have with her? Being her age now, with
Yes
the
and no.
thing. Well, because I ask that because with social media and the influences that she'll see on social media and things like that, is that a big concern to you? The
Here's the
things that
thing.
she's seeing?
Here's yes and no because
Okay.
we have gone through some pretty rough patches. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
try to pretend that I'm a perfect mom at all. She and when my mother was alive and my mother are the only ones who can trigger me within like 1 to 5 seconds. I'm sure you get that,
Yep,
right? I've
I
had to
get it
learn how to
100%.
tools and all of that. I think sometimes though we can get into this therapy culture where we're kind of re-traumatizing everyone as opposed to now I always say 20% problem, 80% solution.
Hmm.
Right, so what are we gonna do about it? And I know that if I sit there and therapize my daughter always says, "Don't therapize me, mom. You're therapizing me again." And I have to remember that she's a kid and what she's doing, a lot of the things that she's doing is normal.
Yeah,
So instead of saying, "Okay, you need to fix this," or "We need to go in here, you need to talk about the problem over and over and over and over again," she knows what she needs to do,
yeah,
if that makes any sense.
yeah. Because you're the
So
one
I
that
try
taught
to
her
put her in
everything. So,
therapy a ton, and she just doesn't do well in therapy, but she does do well with boundaries, and she does do well with, like, consequences and the things like that. So I think sometimes we can over therapize, and
hmm,
sometimes we just need to set a boundary.
yeah. Yeah, and that's my biggest fear too with the internet. It's just like the things these guys see these days are just like God. I
Well,
remember we were in the 90s when the internet first got introduced. When I was in the 90s when I was growing up, Jesus, the things
scary.
we saw were horrible. Like these days, like I open my Instagram and some days I'm just like, yep, I'm done for the day. That's why I tell my one friend, I'm like, oh, I'm done for the day. I can't do this. And she goes, why? What did you just watch? I'm like, here, I'll send it to you because I got like weird videos because a friend of mine would like to send me weird things all the time. So now my feed comes up with random things that show up sometimes. So, it's been an inside joke for a long time. I should do another show called Pete versus his feed and have people come sit down and watch my social medias, just the things that are coming down the line on these things. It's just the weird shit you see on the internet, you
So
know,
many.
you know what I mean?
Well,
And
I think too, with boundaries let me go back to boundaries for a minute
mhm,
because you're talking about anxiety. So think about it this way. I say to you, "Pete, let's go on a trip." And, And you say, "Okay." I say, "Where are we gonna go? Where are we gonna go on this trip, Pete?"
we're going to Japan. We'll
I
say
say, "Come on.
Japan.
Come on, Pete. We're going to Chica I got it all covered. Get in the back seat of my car." So you get in the back seat with me. I mean, you get in the back seat and I get in the back seat with you. And you say, "Kim, who's gonna drive the car?" And I say, "Pete, don't you worry. My 3-year-old daughter is gonna drive us to the airport and fly us to the plane. So you just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride." If you're any sane or not so sane person, what are most people gonna say?
Okay, hell no. 3-year
Right.
old driving me? Nope.
No. So most of us are making major life decisions with a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old mindset and belief system. That's not even
Yeah,
true.
true.
So if you wouldn't let the child drive the car, fly the plane, why the hell are you letting him drive your life?
Very true. Okay, good point. All right, good point.
So
Yeah.
so most of mental health challenges come from maladaptive coping skills that we used to do that helped us survive. But the very thing that helped us survive is now the very thing killing us.
Hmm.
So we can't do the same thing we did to survive to thrive. We have to unlearn everything. And that's where boundaries comes in. So I say to you, okay, Pete, we're in Japan and we're on the tallest skyscraper. And we're in a room and the most beautiful view is out on the balcony. But there's only one catch. There's no railings. Would you go out on the balcony?
Yeah. I would.
You would. Okay. Most people wouldn't because there's no structure to keep them contained. Most people would take a look 100, flights up and be like, "No, I'm gonna go inside." So boundaries are the one thing that help keep you contained so that you can lean up against the railing and overlook. You can even sit on the railing. But as long as there's a boundary there, then people feel a lot safer. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yep. Yeah. That makes sense. So, I mean,
So
obviously it works too because you said that she reacts better to those versus everything else you tried. So,
and there has been times where she's needed to go to therapy and she's talked that out. And then there's times where I feel like maybe it might have done more harm than good in certain situations. So I think with structure and boundaries, I think with a kid, I need to get the help
yeah.
and then create that container for her. It's almost like a child. If a child's crying and you're not able to emotionally regulate yourself, do you think that you're going to be able to emotionally regulate your child?
No.
So they're learning from you. So you're scaffolding from them. So you're helping them hold that big container and feeding it to them in bite-sized chunks.
Yeah. Very true. Okay. Very
So
true.
when I
Yeah.
can
Makes
learn to
sense.
manage yeah, and then when I'm setting boundaries with her, she feels safer.
Yeah, because you're giving her the respect she wants. So because a lot of them at the age want to feel like they're adults too a little bit. Well, mom, I'm old enough to make some decisions, and
And
you're
she's gonna
letting her.
fail.
It'll happen. Like
She's
we
going
all
to
fail.
fail so hard, and I'm gonna fail too. So I think we have this high expectation of what we have to do as parents or have to do
Yeah,
with children and all the different things, but what if everything's working out for our good? And a
that's
lot of
true.
times when there's a challenge, like let's say with my daughter, I always think, "I wonder how God's gonna fix this."
It's true.
What do I need to do in order to become the kind of mom that she needs in order to to be to be there for her, to help her emotionally regulate? Because if I match her energy, is that gonna help?
Not really.
Any time that I've ever matched her energy, it's not been good.
Yeah, yeah. I remember those times when me and my old man made some energy. Sometimes it was about to be a front yard fight. Never got that far, but we got hot enough, that, but and things like that too. But I've learned how to mellow out a lot more. Him on the other hand, he's just gonna do what he's gonna do. He's a salty old war dog. He'll just do whatever he wants to do at
And
that
people are
point.
gonna do what they're gonna do, but the thing is when you are setting those boundaries, they can either rise up or they can have consequences. I don't need to
Yeah,
get mad and give the consequence, I can just give the consequence.
exactly. You
And
know, that was
she
one of the hardest things I had to learn though, is
yeah,
I was always an angry person like that.
yeah,
And
me
now I
too.
don't react the same way. It throws people off because they're waiting for me to respond. But
Yes,
really, when I'm doing this, I'm sitting there thinking about what the next step is I'm going to do.
yeah.
So I'm hearing what people are saying, but I'm really plotting my next move, what I'm going to say next. Because most people want me to jump off the handle like I used to do, but I don't do it anymore, and it throws everybody off. They're like, "Oh no, he's not saying anything. This is either he's mad or no, I'm fine." Like people ask me that too. Are you mad? I'm like, no, I'm good.
And
I just don't see the point of getting mad anymore.
I think too, working with patients, oftentimes, especially in treatment centers, think about it this way. Most of them are very bored. They're going to want to create drama.
Hmm.
So they're going to pick on you. But oftentimes too, all of these things are coming up and they don't have their coping skill. They don't have their drug helping them not have anxiety. So they're going to push and they're going to push and they're going to push. Oftentimes when a client is super angry and they're yelling at me, I'll often ask, "What are you sad about?" And 9 times out of 10, they'll just start crying.
Yeah.
So, it's just communication. I think sometimes people's big reactions, they're trying to get a big reaction out of you, but they're also trying to put their problems onto you so they don't have to face their own. They're
Yeah.
projecting. So there's this thing in psychology called transference countertransference. So if I'm the therapist or the psychologist and I'm working something out, I might put it onto the client and now all of a sudden the client is my mom or dad and I've got to be really careful. But it can also go in reverse where the client is being triggered and might feel like you're the parent. So oftentimes if somebody has a big hysterical historical moment, I'll just sit back and ask, "Who do I remind you of? What do you need in this moment?" Does
You
that make
know,
any sense?
I think a lot of people don't ask that question though. Like, I thought it was interesting. I was on a panel And everybody in the panel had these great grand answers. And I said, well, what about asking the individual in the moment? Like the question was like, what do you do when somebody starts like freaking out? I said, everybody else had these great answers, but I comes to me and I go, well, why didn't we ask them how we can help them better? And everybody in the panel stops and goes, well, I agree with that guy down in the end. I'm like, what do you mean? Like that should be the first thing. Ask them how we can better help them. Like you don't know what they're dealing with. And anybody knows better than anybody. We usually, the person that's freaking out could tell you how to help them better, in those moments and things like that too. And all these guys had these great answers. And then no one even said that. It's like, so everybody here just seems to forget that maybe if we just ask them how we can help them, and maybe to solve the problem here, we don't have to make this even worse than it is. You know what I mean? And I thought that was funny that all these people looked at me and go, "Well, I like Pete's answer the best." I'm like, all I've said is the obvious answer here. Why can nobody here say it? Like, you have all these great things, but the one thing we should have done is just ask a question to somebody.
I remember one time, I was in, one of the treatment centers and there were six patients sitting around and we were all, having a really beautiful conversation, and I got to this one guy and I was like, "Okay, well," he says to me, "I hate you. I hate this place. You're full of shit. I fucking hate this. You guys are liars." And I said, Okay, got it. So you're calling me a liar?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm calling you a fucking liar." And I said, "Okay, got it." And everybody's jaw was hitting the ground. And I was like, "Tell me more. Tell me why I'm a liar." "Well, you know, it's like I got to this place and it's not what it said it was going to be and all the different things." I go, "Okay, well, I tell you that it was gonna be that way?" I said, "I just met you 10 minutes ago." And he goes, "Well, no, it's just always this way." I go, "What do you mean it's always this way?" He goes, "This is my 51st time in treatment
Jeez.
and nothing works. Nothing is changing." And I go, "Oh, so it sounds like you're feeling hopeless." "Yeah, because," and he started to going in and this, "You suck and everybody sucks." And I go, I get that. Sounds really hard." And he just started crying.
Yeah.
"I just wanna be normal. I just wanna be a productive member of society. I just wanna," and I said, "Okay, does anybody else feel this way?"
Yeah.
And all the other clients were like, "Yeah, I feel that way too." And I felt that way myself. Oftentimes when people are upset, there's a reason for it, but it's usually not the reason that we think it is. So oftentimes when somebody's doing this, we do this as opposed to maybe we need to do this
Yeah.
and just love.
Even
A lot of
even
times people are
even just
trying to.
listen, like in that situation, like you said,
Yeah,
just listen to them. Let them be felt heard because sometimes that's what it
thank you.
is. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't feel like they're being heard enough. Like they
exactly
just
it.
like so, that's great though. The fact that you stayed so calm when he said I fucking hate
Well, they're all
I'm thinking
around.
I'm laughing. It's funny. I'm like, damn, Killer's just standing like,
It was
okay,
fun
well,
it was fun for me because I got it, I've been there. I mean, I feel like too, I could be out of my rocker, but my belief is whoever's in front of you is kind of a version of you. And so when you can really just try to see past the schemas and all the maladaptive coping skills that help them get to where they are and see to who they really are, that's where the magic happens. But it takes a minute to get through all of those barriers in order to get to the real person, because the real person is loving and happy and beautiful and all the different things. These are just behaviors that try to push people away. It's a protective mechanism. So when you can
mhm,
get past that barrier, people tend to soften. And then that's where the trust can be built. And I find too that a lot of people, I mean, I work with a lot of therapists and psychologists and providers, and one of the things that I had a challenge with, and when I'm working with my staff and mentoring and coaching them, supervising them, I notice a big theme, and it's not just them, it's me too, right? I need to fix it. But the thing is nothing needs to be fixed. They're not broken. Patients are not broken. They just have maladaptive coping skills that used to work. They just don't work anymore. So when we can get them to just be in their bodies, come down into and just feel, most drug addicts and alcoholics will destroy their lives and the lives of everyone around them not to feel for 2.5 to 5 minutes. It usually takes about 2.5 to 5 minutes to collapse a big emotion. I call those raisin size emotions. And then the big emotions, the ones that feel like you're gonna die, you don't want to do those by yourself. Like I call them prune size emotions. Usually take about 15 to 20 minutes to collapse. But you don't wanna do that by yourself because those are the ones that kinda land you in the hospitals. Those are more like panic attacks, anxiety, all the different things.
Yeah.
So, what patients don't realize is the panic attack is not gonna kill them, but what they're doing to avoid it may.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when we can help them just let's do it right now. Let's take a deep breath right now. Do it with me, Pete, ready? Okay, let's do 2 more. Last one. When we can help people get into their bodies, what they'll realize is that big emotion might come up, but it's gonna pass,
Yeah.
and then it usually goes away. And then there's this level of peace that comes over you that you don't even know how you got that, but if you just sit there for 2.5 to 5 minutes and just feel the anxiety for a moment. What do I feel in my body? Oh, I feel it in my chest. Okay, chest, usually the heart, usually that's probably a little bit of grief. Oh, if my heart could speak, what would it say?
Say a lot of things, I'm sure.
Like what?
Well, in my situation, my anxiety's going, it's usually mad panic because, like, it does. You feel it. I feel it right here in the chest. So when you
Yeah,
say
so
that,
what's the
I
panic
relate to
telling you?
that.
Because the panic is your best friend. Thank God you have the panic. Most people try to get rid of it, but that's information.
Hmm.
That is beautiful information. Your body's trying to talk to you about something.
Yeah. Usually when mine does that, though, it's usually something I need to be aware of. When I get those moments, I'll wake up
Exactly.
and it's like I can feel it, but I'm like, okay, something's not right or something's
Something's
happening, and you
not
know.
right.
Hmm.
Perfect. Okay, got it. So, this is a funny little story. I'm giving you TMI, but when I first met my husband, he's a really good-looking guy, and he is also a therapist, so or addiction counselor, and he wouldn't know how to turn it off when he got to, like, parties and different things. So what would happen was he would be very available, and then he would open people up, and then they would take it the wrong way,
Hmm.
and then they would attach to him, and then all of a sudden now they're feeding off of his energy, and they were trying to, like, get rid of me.
Hmm.
But in the beginning, I didn't understand the pattern, I didn't understand it was like, why are you running energy with her?" He's like, "Babe, I'm not doing anything. It's her." And I'm like, it's not just her, you know? And he didn't even know he was doing it. He was just listening, but we would be at, like, let's say pickleball. I go, "Babe, is it appropriate to talk about depression at pickleball? Or maybe we should talk about pickleball when we're playing pickleball. Maybe we lighten it up a little bit." Right? And so what happened was is he didn't even realize, but I could feel the energy from across the room between my husband and this other person. And what I had to realize is, oh, wounded, wounded. She sees that I'm right here, but he's giving her something that she's never gotten before in her
Hmm.
entire life, which was someone to listen to her,
Yeah.
someone to hold a space for her. But what happened was is he was coming away drained. Make
Yep.
sense?
Yep.
So I was watching this dynamic, and at first it was came in panic attacks, like there he's going to cheat on me, or they're like the disrespect. I'm right here. And it would come in the form of panic attack. And so that panic attack helped me get clear on what my boundaries were.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate at a pickleball place. Let's save this area for work, but maybe even also set the boundary at work because this is not appropriate. And then they think that you're leading them on, and really you're just being nice.
Yeah.
Make
It
sense?
it's funny you say that though, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you
Okay.
a quick
I
story
want to hear
though
about it. Yeah.
before I ask you. So, I ran into a situation similar to this,
Yeah.
okay? I was just being nice to these other ladies that I met,
Yep.
and just a nice person in general.
Yep.
Apparently, I didn't know that 3 of these ladies all had feelings for me, and I'm talking to somebody else who now I'm in a relationship with, and they were all mad at me because of this. And I'm like, she was like, you know what it is? I think it's the fact that you're just a nice person. You're listening to them, you're doing the same thing that they all wanted to be heard, and somebody was listening, and you took time to listen to them and everything like that. And I had no idea, like all these other people, I'm like, I didn't do nothing. I'm the most clueless person when it came to all this too. I'm like, I don't know. I got this information from somebody else, and she was like, yeah, yeah. So my girlfriend now was telling me because the girl that all of them went and told, she's like, yeah, he's out here breaking hearts. I'm like, Pete didn't do anything. He was just being nice to people. That's it. Like I
There
didn't
comes a
tend.
point in time that what I learned, and I used to do this too, right? And then I didn't understand why guys were hitting on me all the time. But there's something called an informed consent in therapy, right? And in therapy, you sign this informed consent giving permission to be ripped open.
Hmm.
There's a time and a place for it. Nobody at pickleball is signing a informed
Right,
consent.
exactly.
Nobody at a party is assigning a informed consent, and you might be doing more damage than good. Here's one more story, and then I'll be quiet about this. But our neighbors invited us over for dinner, and this lady was talking about depression. I was like, "Nah, I'm out." and my husband was like, "So tell me about your depression." I was like, "Fuck that shit, I'm out," 'cause I'm not working right now. And she locked in on him, and all of a sudden, he ripped her open unintentionally, and, the next day, the sheriff's department came over to their house because they had gotten in such a huge her and her husband had gotten in such a huge fight that the sheriff's department needed to come over, and I was like, "Babe, this is
Jeez.
dangerous." Okay, there's a time and place for therapy, and this isn't it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So so the container is important. That's why boundaries are really important, and by the way, my husband has so much more energy now because he's not sitting there giving it to everyone and going to work all day long and being of service and being the nice guy and, and creating that thing, and then going to afterwards to go exercise, and now he's gotta do it there, and then now we're over here. So there he's just exhausted, barely can get out of bed. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
So there
So
comes a point in time that you need to be able to be mindful in what it is you're talking about and sharing about and set those boundaries and those parameters. Another thing is to, like, the women would start touching him or the guys would start touching me, and I'd be like, "My arm's reserved for my husband.
yeah, yeah.
My
I,
arm's reserved for my wife."
Right? Right? It's like, yeah, the touch thing is what would get me too. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, like I'm not with you, so like I
yeah,
don't, yeah, don't do the, yeah, I
yeah.
don't get that. I don't do that whole thing. Like I'll give somebody a hug, okay, that's cool, but
Cool.
that's about it. That I'll go from there. That's it. After that, you
Do a
touching me
fist
any more
bump or a
excessively is
side
too
hug
much.
or yeah, but you gotta be really careful because what people don't
Yeah,
understand is when you are in a position where and I don't know if you're even asking about this, I'm just talking about these are just some of the experiences that I've experienced just in normal life, right? As someone working as, somebody's I've been in this industry 37 years is a long time
jeez,
to
yeah,
talk about mental health and to do it all minus the time when I was homeless. But even then, I was still talking to people and helping them out. But I had to learn how to set boundaries with that. And then also, even when I remember when my daughter and I would be out to lunch. She's 5 years old, and somebody would start telling me about, and then they would trauma dump, and they would talk about like murder and rape and all the different things. Be careful. I think I need to do like a trigger warning of these words, and then they would start talking about that, and my 5-year-old daughter would be right there. But
yeah,
again, these people have never been listened to before. So I
yeah.
think there comes a time and place where you do wanna listen, but that you've also gotta set the boundary with that so that you don't take on their anxiety as well.
Very true. So, Kimberly Lou, we're at the part of the interview where I ask my guests two questions. Okay. So, one of them is actually a bit of a fun one I borrowed from a friend of
Okay?
mine. So my question to you is that if your mental health had a song, what would you say that song would be? And this is a fun one when
Mm.
people answer this.
Hold on, my hair again. The mental health
It had a song. Yeah.
got a song. Okay, this is when I'm mad. You wanna hear the song? I just listened to it on TikTok. I'm gonna share it
Oh,
with you.
here we
You guys don't
go.
mind. Hold on, I love TikTok.
TikTok's great though for a lot of people you meet and things like that too. That's where I've met a lot of interesting people on and things like that as well. So I find a lot of bands there too. So that's season three's opener was actually a guy I met through TikTok and Instagram. He's an artist actually, and he let me use his song for season three. And season two was actually another band I'd met on there. They're a rock band that I met out of Florida
I
and
love
things like
it.
that. So it's been pretty cool to meet a lot of interesting people there.
I love that. Okay, so this is TikTok. I don't know who it is, but I'm just gonna show you the video, okay?
Okay.
And so when my mental health, when somebody crosses a boundary, this is it. Hold on a second.
Songs I didn't know I needed to hear. Fafo? Fuck it, I'm a bitch.
Love it. Yeah, that's great.
Hey, tell me when you're done.
Yeah, you're good. I think I don't know what that song is. I'll have to figure out if I can figure out which one that is.
Hell yeah, I'm a mess. I'll be this hate deep and nice till you cross that line. And the dance flips fast and bitch mode comes alive.
Love it.
Well, a little bit of sugar, a whole lot of go to hell. Yeah, I'm the sweetest bitch you'll ever meet till you.
I'll have to figure out what that is now. That's great.
Blackout. Are you keeping
That's all, yeah.
That's
my
fucking.
mental
That's
health.
hilarious. That's awesome. I did not see that coming. Honestly, I was like, "Wait a minute, Kimberly Lou, what are you listening to over there?" But no, like I asked that question though because music does play a big part, and I love
Yes.
music, and that's how I describe my mental health to most people. Some days, like I'll put together some playlists and tell people, And when someone asked me that question, I gave it two ways. So I did. Anxiety was artificial suicide by Bad Omens. It wasn't the lyrics, but it's the way the song just kind of that moment my anxiety kicks, it's just really going really fast paced and the
Yeah.
song goes really fast. And my depression song was two, actually. It was Leave a Light On, Tuck Away the Dark by Papa Roach, because I'm a big Papa Roach fan. And then another one was A Different Kind of Pain by Cold. So, and just because like the real soft melody of the songs and things like that too, and stuff like that too. So it's always a fun one to ask people like that. I've got to say, I did not see that one coming for you though, but that was
I
great though.
remember too. Think about it this way too. Postpartum, I did
Mhm.
not realize, but 14% of women who experience postpartum experience the anxiety version, and the anxiety is so intense. So uh, I would do a playlist of like
Mhm.
happy songs, and I'd put my daughter in an ergo, and I would just dance for the first 5 minutes every morning because I would get into such a deep depression and such a big funk and panic attacks and all the things that if I didn't do that, so music is a very big part of raising vibration, I feel like.
I love it though. I'd love to. So, Kimberly, we're at the last question before we start wrapping up. The reason I start this podcast and the question to you is that if you could break the stigma about mental health, what would you say that one thing would be?
I don't think it's just one, but I think that if people could do better, they would. I think we got to have a little bit more compassion for the people around us as opposed to doing this with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? When people are angry, there's a reason. When people are overwhelmed, when people are in fear, there's a reason for it. So instead of doing this, we need to do this.
I agree. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for being here. It was an honor having you. Before I start signing the show off, would you like to let me know where to find you? Plug your website. I know you have YouTube. You're pretty much everywhere, just like me.
I am everywhere. But you can look up Kimberley Lou. And then I have a website called KimberleyLou.com. You can find my book, Becoming Who You're Meant to Be, on there. And then if you're a treatment center and you're needing facilitators, psychologists, therapists, breath work, sound bath, you can go to guidinghands.com. No, guidinghandshealthcare.com.
I love it. I love it. Well, Kimberly, thank you once again for being here. I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with me. It was so great to get to know you.
Same.
You're definitely welcome to come back anytime. We can
Thank
talk
you,
about any
Pete.
of those interesting stories you want to bring.
I think I shared too much.
No, you're good. Listen, that's great. I loved it. It's great to see the other side of people. You
Yeah.
see people on the internet, and then you get to meet them in person and just start
Yeah.
asking them all these questions that you normally don't get to ask them. So it was great. I think it was a great time. So,
Love
do
it.
you have any last encouraging words before I sign this off?
You got this.
All right, guys, let's do this, guys. Hey, you know what, guys? We're going to wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. You know where to find me on Pete vs. Anxiety on X, all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify, all the way down to Pandora Radio. And I always say it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you could do could save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety signing off saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health?